Gosha, welcome to SHOWstudio.
Thank you.
First question. I was reading a lot of interviews you've done in the past, and one of the things that you said is fashion is just part of this world I'm building. And you said clothing is a part of my big art project. And I'm interested because you do so many different things. You know, you design clothing, but you also make films, you photograph. And I'm interested, what world is it that you're trying to build? What do you mean by that?
Oh.
Big question.
Yes, you're right. The fashion was not the first thing we start. So like when I was around like 20 plus, I think I need to do something, and I have interest in different things like photography, like films, like fashion. And I started to do some things. I used to work like stylist, like costume designer for some movies in Russia. I try to do some photography things with my friends, some diaries, and it was a dream to do some fashion project. But I know the themes which is interesting for me. It's like some youth, some like young kids in Russia, and when I start, I don't really understand how to put together these my interests and fashion project. And once I meet a company of some young kids, teenagers, skaters, and I start to spend time with them, and we spent I think like a summer together. We go to some crazy parties in Moscow. I shoot every day, every time, like documenting these things. And after we have different trips to St. Petersburg, to other cities. And during all this time, I think yes, this is the right moment for my fashion project. This is the people who I want to work with, who I like to work for, and it was big inspiration for me. And they said, my friends, they said, Gosha, you should start your project. Let's do collection. It was like a game. Why not? Let's try to do a fashion show. And one of my friends, they own some big nightclub in Moscow, Solyanka. Now it's not exist now, but it was. And they said, Gosha, it's an interesting project. We want to support you. We want to give you some money and rent some space you want and do everything you want. So, and we rent this like huge sports stadium and made collection of like it takes a month. We made t-shirts, we made some. It was really like a game. It's not like serious fashion project. It was like a game, and finally we made it. It was like it was more like a performance. I like our performance than a fashion show. But anyway, it was very strong. It's like big sport Soviet stadium. Like 20 boys wearing sportswear, some t-shirts going around with some crazy music and with some like performance thing, and it was the start. But we already had like photography, and I think everyone said, Gosh, it works good together. Like clothes, boys, pictures, video, and I start to do it, and it's always for me is interesting altogether. I don't like to separate. That's why I start to shoot lookbooks by myself, because when we have collection, who can shoot it? And my friend Dasha, she said, Gosha, you should do it by yourself. Why we need to ask someone? You should do it. And I start to learn. I have some like photography classes in my college, but I never shoot lookbooks and I never shoot portraits, and I start to learn, and it's interesting, and then I continue learn.
Is it strange for you when people call you a fashion designer? Do you find that quite strange, given that your approach, you want to do everything and you want it to be like a world? Is it strange that people now who maybe don't know so much of how you came to fashion, when they just call you a designer? Is that frustrating?
I don't like when people put some things in the boxes.
Yeah.
It's not only about me. And some people who don't want to learn, don't want to look deep, they say, "Oh, okay, it's fashion designer." Or okay, it's. I think it's a bit stupid, and of course, I don't feel myself like fashion designer. It's fashion. It's for me. It's like play the game. So now we do fashion because it's not like for me like fashion. It's I know we make items which I know work well with my feelings, with my project. I think it's good. It's a good complement to all other things. That's why, and I was surprised that it's sell well, and that's why it's now not a game. It start to be a business. But yeah. anyway, it's good. It's good to do it, but I'm still don't think I'm a designer, a fashion designer. So I feel more comfortable when someone said you're like artist or some, I don't know, like photographer or I don't know, like producer.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Do you worry a lot about how fast fashion is and how time consuming it is? Because when I interview any, just any fashion designer here, they talk about the pace and how quickly they have to produce collections. And do you worry a bit that because your clothing is selling so well and the demands on your work, that actually you will get stuck in the fashion design system and not have the opportunity to do the photography and the wider projects? Is that a concern?
Yes, because before I used to do all by myself, alone. So I work together with a graphic designer, and all designs for my brand I do by myself. I don't have assistants. And now it starts to be a bit crazy because we need new drops, and every like few months we need to do something because now all like these people, all kids who buy our stuff, we want more. We want something new and now yes, I'm thinking to build a bigger team, and now we are working to do a bigger studio in Moscow, to invite some people to help me with design, because now it's start to be hard to do, because I'm a person who like to control everything. I like to do everything by myself, so I draw all sketches by myself. I only help graphic designer to do it in digital, and everything, every ideas, everything you see from Gosha, it's all my work. And it's hard when now it start to be bigger. It's hard to do all by myself, and of course I start to feel this like rush and like some nervous thing. It starts happening, and especially when you work. Now I have a conflict between working on a book and working for collection, and I know I need to continue my book, but I need to start my collection, and what is more important for me, it's both important.
It's really hard. Do you worry ever that as it gets bigger and it grows, that the reasons that you started, which seem very authentic and very much about, real life and real culture, do you worry that will become hard to reconcile with the way that the fashion system works, where it's so about consumerism and, buying things and buying more and more? Do you worry ever that those original ideas will be hard to fit with the system?
I think original idea was to show our world to other people.
That's interesting.
First of all, to show in Moscow, to show in Russia, and after we want to show it international. And I like it. I think it's good when people wants to see you, wants to interesting in you, and wants to buy something. It's good, and why not? And I'm happy to buy more stuff, because we grow auditory and we have money from it, and this money can help young designers or young boys who can help me and work with me. It's interesting, and of course it's money gives more freedom. We can do more projects, we can be more free. I think it's good. I like what's happening now.
So when you say, because it's interesting, you say a lot that you do your work and you did that first collection, you do it for them, for those kids.
Yes.
And is that what you mean when you say that you're doing it to kind of, show the world who they are and talk about what they're about? Is that what you mean when you say you do it for them?
Yeah, it's like, as I said, I do all things alone, but anyway, it is a collaboration. I always spend my time with like teenagers, young kids or young people who do something interesting in Moscow, and I try to feel this energy or try to see what's happening, and I try to help. If I can help, I help, or if I how to say. It's interesting to collaborate, and it's always like I feel it's like a community, not I'm alone, but anyway it needs to be one leader who make it real, who make it happen. But anyway, it was for these people, and I always say if you want to be part, you can be a part, and let's try. And that's why some people stay with us, like my friend Tolia. He was a model for the first show. He was 14 years old, and he's still with us now. He helped me with collection. He helped with design for shoes, for Vans collaboration, because he's a pro skater, and he knows what skaters need.
Yeah.
And he helped me with this, and also the other guy Pavel. He used to be a graphic designer for our first collections, and now he do music. He have his project about techno, lo-fi DIY techno, and I use twice already him for my shows. He made soundtracks, and now we made his vinyl disc with his. I produce it with his music. So it's some people stay with us, some people go, and many new kids. And now we're working with some like 16 years old guys who help us with design. So it's always
new.
Yeah.
It's interesting because you talk about this community, and they're obviously such creative and inspiring, talented people. And you said, you're almost kind of the leader of it and you're spearheading it. And I wondered, why you, in some ways? Do you ever look at these amazing people around you and think that it could have been one of them? Like, why is it you that's kind of, because it's Gosha that everyone knows the name, why is it you, not one of them?
I don't know. Maybe I have some special interest. I like to meet people. I like to see what's happening, and of course, maybe it's some special feeling inside. I'm always, when I look at someone and say, oh, maybe it's some interesting person or some strange feeling, and I start to like collaborate or and after these people can do something in future, and I don't know, and I don't know, maybe I have energy, and I want to do something. Maybe that's why it's successful, or that's why maybe people have attention. I don't know, because I have I'm thirsty to do
stuff. It's interesting. I found a quote that you said, and it was, you were talking about when you were at college, and you said, you were reading OM magazine, and you said the choice was either becoming a rock star or becoming a fashion designer. And I thought it was really interesting because it made me think that there must have been a huge amount of ambition in you, like a real sense of like, not that you wanted fame, but that you wanted recognition. And do you think that you are very ambitious?
I think it's not about ambitious. I very how to say it's still very clean for me. I remember this moment. I remember it was winter time, Russian winter time. I was in, I think, in 8th class or something in the school, and I go from my school to my home. Like, it was cold, and I go through a press shop. And I saw amazing cover of the magazine, and I want to see what is it, because I never before I never have interest in magazines, or I was like the normal teenager, and then whoa, what is it? What's the magazine? And I spent all my like breakfast money for this magazine, and I put it to my home, and it was a revolution in my head, because it's first time I see pictures like that. So like it was like crazy fashion shoots mixed with some translated pieces from like the Face magazine or from ID magazine in Russian. So it's crazy part of like William Burroughs books, and all together, and it all was like unbelievable. It's crazy for like 14 years old boy, and I think, wow, I like this magazine. I like people who I see on the pages, and I want to be the same. I want to be like these people. I want to be on these pages. It was not about fame, not about. It's about interest in life. I want to do something interesting.
It's interesting to me that you talk about that kind of, that feeling, because I wonder, did you ever feel, in some ways your work is it celebrates Russia and it celebrates your upbringing, where you're from, but I wonder, did you ever feel frustration at where you were born? Because often, even just in England, when I interview designers who didn't live in London, they'll talk about like feeling so bored where they were and wishing they were, like you say, like going out and hanging out with the kind of people in the Face or in ID. And did you ever feel a frustration that you weren't?
It's how to say, in late 90s, it was amazing time in Russia, and I never think somewhere is more interesting. It was really interesting to be there, and after, of course, I want to do something, and yes, for me was a dream to go to London once, and when I was like 10 years ago, when I was 20, I go first time, and it was like, wow, it's something crazy, but anyway, it was interesting for me because of many interesting magazines, some like art books, because we don't have many in Russia. So it was interesting for me, yes, some things, but how to say, I early understand it's better to do what you understand well. So I know my city, I know my community. That's why when I start to do my own things, I think it needs to be here, to base it on these themes. And I don't want to move somewhere. I still feel energy and feel interest in Moscow, and especially in new generation, and it's still good, but of course I like to be somewhere else. And
it's interesting what you say about the energy in Moscow, because one of the things that I find so interesting in your work, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like it's kind of about different things and different levels. In some way, it's very much about the contemporary scene in Moscow, what young kids are wearing, what people are doing on the street. But on the other hand, there is a historical element to it as well, where it looks at Soviet history. It looks at the kind of the cultural heritage and even sometimes the really difficult identities of the place and its history and its perception in the world. And how do you balance those two things between making it very modern and very now, but also very aware of what has gone before and how that has been perceived?
So I need to explain. It's all because of Moscow. Moscow is a very huge city and crazy mix of everything. So when you are in Moscow, you can see like crazy mix of different styles in architecture, like crazy advertising, a lot of people, crazy traffic, and like more a lot of energy and. And especially after like 90s, in 2000s, and now. Like many like cheap information and not good stuff, and we start to think what is good, like me and some of my friends, and what is good, and we start to see, in this garbage we can see, wow, it's beautiful building from Soviet Stalin's era, it's beautiful mosaic, it's beautiful art piece, and that's why and we had very at the same time, we had very strong, like punk and music scene in the 80s in Soviet Russia. So, and we start to learn it, how it was, and that's why I use some nostalgic things, and I like to remember what was strong, what was good, and we put it from the past to show. Everybody, and to show ourselves what was strong, like what we need to do. Like it's like some standard, and we want to be the same. We want to be this standard. That's why I use it. I want to mix things which I think suits good to my world. And that's why, and at the same time, I want to see beauty of Russia, and I want to, because now we live in a crazy time, and a lot of bad news and some informational war against Russia, and if I can show something good and beautiful, I want to show it, and that's why I put some references from the past to show, and all kids. All kids, how to say, I forget this word. So everyone who is young, they like it, they like these things,
like
and
pride,
understand that yes, it's really cool. We need to use it always. We need to concentrate on these kind of things. So it's very popular now. Or early Soviet art, like artists from 20s, like constructivists, modernists, like Rodchenko, Malevich, all these kind of things, and of course Stalin's architectures, these amazing buildings, all these very well, and mixed with Soviet 80s punk music. And because now it's not really interesting in Moscow, it's only some like Russian young hip hop or techno music, and people still listen some rock bands from 80s, and it's good. And of course, young kids pay respect to historical things.
Is it, you touched on it then, is it difficult for you sometimes to kind of speak to a global audience when there are such prevalent kind of these ideas about Russia that you say can be quite negative, particularly, at the moment there is a lot that is written that is negative, and I think, from a political perspective, but also from a fashion perspective, there's this idea of kind of vulgarity and an obsession with luxury, and do you feel like you're trying to sort of challenge these stereotypes a lot, and is it sometimes frustrating? You're trying to get this message across, and people have these very fixed ideas about what Russia is and what Russian taste is. Is that hard?
It's not hard because all these aspects about like politics or about some like crazy fashion, it's all comes from like zeros from late 90s, because now it's all about like 50 plus people generation, because now it's already new people, new generation. As I said, like many times, young kids, teenagers, they are the same like in London or in Tokyo or in Beijing, everywhere. Because now it's new generation because of the internet. And these people, they start to do different things. And I think my mission to show it, and I have power to show these kids, to show. That's why I think what I do is so popular, because I speak a very international language, but I show some things, some Russian things. But now I know, and other like young people, they know how to speak to be understand. And I think it will be change because I see many talented people who do fashion, who do art, who do different things, who do business, who do like high-tech technologies in Russia, and I think it was always some misunderstanding between Russia and our world, but anyway we try. We don't want to. We don't want to be outsiders. We want to be together with our world. Sometimes it's difficult to explain, but like people like me, we try to speak. We try to explain.
It's interesting that you say that. I was wondering, do you ever feel that people don't understand your work? And it could be because of where they're from or the generation that they are, or because of their ideas of Russia. But do you ever feel like people, they don't understand it? They don't understand the history, they don't understand the culture, they don't understand even things as simple as the language, you know, some of the... Do you feel that sometimes, that the messages are getting lost?
It's, I think it's not because I'm Russian and other people not Russian. I think it's the same for all art, people who do art. But it's not the reason. You do what you want, and it's good. One person can get one idea from what you do. Other people can see other things, and it's good. It's good. I think my work to show something I'm interested in, and everyone can get other ideas, and I think this is idea of art of some things, and also it's good if someone don't understand, they can Google, they can learn what is it. What is mosaic? What is the building Gosha show on his pictures? What is it? What it comes from? And
that's interesting.
It's also good.
Yeah.
I can like teach people something. If we don't know a lot about Russian culture, they can teach by like, oh, what is it, and what it comes from.
That's really interesting. I'm intrigued by the way that you touched on it, where the interest in youth, because fashion is often criticized for kind of fetishizing youth. And you know, as you said, you use models who are incredibly young, you know, 13 or 14. And are you aware of that criticism about fashion's obsession with youth? And do you feel, why is it that youth is so inspiring and so interesting to you? Do you ever feel like it's too narrow, it's too obvious in any way?
Because for me, the main thing is my interest in youth, not in fashion.
Yeah.
That's why it's. I understand what you. If I was like fashion designer or like fashion, and I start to use some kids for it, it can be something strange. But first of all, I'm always interested in something new, something fresh, and that's why I like these kids. And yes, they can be like 25 years old or 13, but anyway, this person can have some special energy. And then I see, oh, you are part of my world. You need to be sometimes, and that's why. And why young people? Because I believe in new generation, and I think it's good reason to show these young kids from Russia, because they are something new. That's why I try to work with them.
It's such a smart answer that you said, I'm interested in youth, not fashion. But is it ever strange for you, now you're in that fashion system, when you see fashion designers who are obsessed with youth, but their interest was fashion, but they start to kind of reference youth culture all the time, and they kind of appropriate it in some ways. You see youth culture everywhere on the runways. And is that ever weird for you when your interest is so authentically youth?
Oh, I understand what you mean, but for me, I'm really concentrated on my own world. I don't like to look outside for this, and I'm not very interested in fashion. And yes, I think people clever who have like mind or who have some feelings, they know what is real, what is not real. That's why some things like Supreme or like Palace very popular, because kids know it's made by kids, by like skaters, by the same people who have the same mind. That's why it's popular. But our like brands who try to be cool or young, they can't do it, because they don't feel this. They are outside this culture. That's why it's easy for me, because I grow with all these kids, all of my friends from skateboard culture, and I know what is it, and I know how it works. That's why it's very naturally for me.
Do you worry about getting older? Because
sometimes, yeah, sometimes, but it's interesting. It's two sides. You can do more because of experience. You can do things stronger, more interesting. But at the same time, you start to lose energy. But that's why I like to work together with some who are younger, because I want to be on point. I like to feel what's happening now. And of course, now it's hard to me to do tricks on skateboard, and now I'm boy skating and I'm sitting and I do pictures, and it's like a lazy sometimes, but anyway.
I'm interested, it's kind of a difficult question in some ways, but maybe particularly with the clothing, less so with the film and the photography. But I wonder, do you see your work as political, or do you see it as purely kind of aesthetic and visual? Because I think people read a lot of political messages into what you do, but then in some ways it feels like it is just about, it's quite like a documentary. It's about recording what people are actually wearing. So in that sense, it is quite just image based. How do you see it?
For me, it's we live at the time like politics in the air, especially in Moscow. So like crazy news everywhere, in internet, in TV, like in our families, like all speak politics. It's crazy, and I feel this pressure on the kids, and anyway, like young kids, they know what's happening in Ukraine, what's happening with Putin, what's happening in USA, and everyone talk about politics, and that's why if I want to do something real about our moment, we need to put some political references, and I feel myself like a punk, and we try to use it like in punk way. What we want to do? Let's use something. Let's use Russian and Chinese flag in like Tommy Hilfiger logo way. Let's do it maybe. And I think what is it now to be a punk now?
Yeah.
I think it's you need to be A$AP Rocky. Like the famous hip-hop artist, and perform on MTV Music Awards and with Russian and Chinese flags on the sweatshirt. I think it was amazing when I saw him he perform in my sweatshirt with these flags. It was, no one can believe it can be real, like an American famous hip-hop artist on the MTV Music Awards. can perform in Russian and Chinese flags sweatshirt.
Yeah.
So this is, it's like a play the game. It's like jokes. It's like punk. I'm always trying to learn what is it to be a punk nowadays.
That's really interesting. There's one thing that I wanted to ask about, which I find interesting because I wear your stuff, and your stuff is so about masculinity. It's about boys, as you said, and a lot of it, in some ways, there's a lot of kind of, it's about kind of machismo. You know, particularly some of the things that you've referenced. You know, Nazbols would be a good example, and it is very much about masculinity. And what is your vision of masculinity? How do you see what it means to be a man or a boy?
I never think about it.
It's a big question.
Yeah, I like. It's some things I like or I don't like. It's more about feelings, and I see, oh, this person is right person, and like this theme is good theme. It's not like I have some order of what is Gosha Rubchinskiy world and what is not. It can be different things, and when I don't know, for me, like masculinity can be a crop top, like pink crop top, inspired by 90s club scene, and at the same time it can be like there is like tracksuit and very like suburban outfit. I don't know. I don't think about masculinity and.
It's interesting because in fashion at the moment, like there is so much talk about like you know, gender fluidity and androgyny, and to me, some aspects of your work, they are quite almost traditionally, or maybe even nostalgically masculine, going back to what we were just talking about. And I wouldn't say it's particularly androgynous. And do you feel that ever, that it is about celebrating boyhood in some way?
Of course, I like some fetishes. I like some like basic menswear, cult like things like cult items, and of course I like reference from the past. I like some like you said, like some masculine or traditional things, and I think it's good, and I think it's work well. Why not? Why we don't change? Let's use what works well. And sometimes I hate these popular things between like changes of sex, sexuality, about like play. Of course, sometimes it can be sexy when boys start wearing like girls stuff. It can be cool. It can be cool, like colored nails, and it was popular last like 2 years when skaters started to color nails. And it's not like homosexuality. I think it can be a really like straight thing, but of course it's reference from the girls. But I like it. For me, it can be very masculine. This kind of things like crop tops and colored nails. But at the same time, I hate some like cross-dressing, and I think it's a little bit weird.
Do you think fashion is kind of making a trend out of those things when perhaps they're bigger than fashion? You know, I feel like it's everyone is doing cross-dressing and that kind of thing now because it feels very current, and sometimes it's not done in that much of an authentic way.
I don't know. I know it's a little bit different what's happening in Moscow, in Russia, and what's happening our world. But of course, I can imagine because of internet, and we saw what's happening. But it's not really exist in Moscow. We still like boys. It's like boys, girls like like girls, and it's not very popular in Russia. It's Russia is very traditional.
Yeah.
And people like to girls like to wear like girlish stuff and like to be sexy, and boys like to be like very basic, and but of course we have like some punks, some club kids who like to show.
Yeah.
But it's a little bit different.
So you never find it strange when girls wear your clothes? You don't find it strange when girls wear your
I
clothes?
like
You like
when
it?
girls. I like the idea, like boyfriends wear then girl
Yeah.
put some sweatshirt or some socks. That's why sometimes when I choose colorways for some sweatshirts or for let's do this interesting colors because of girls, because
Yeah.
some girls can buy it, and we always do like small sizes and
Yeah.
some interesting, like some colorful things because of girls. But anyway, we concentrate on boys,
On boys.
but I can imagine girls can wear these items and this stuff.
And tell me, I want to ask a little bit about the way the business has grown, because you talked about liking being in Moscow, but obviously there are the practical difficulties of having a fashion label in somewhere that's not got a kind of a massively thriving fashion community. And obviously Comme des Garçons have been very supportive of your label. And just tell me about how that relationship started and how it made it possible for you to do certain things. Was it quite difficult to try and run a label from Moscow without that kind of support?
Yes, because before it was like an art project. It was like a game. We made like free collection in Moscow, like to do something. It was interesting for us, but we never mind to sell it. We sell in one store, and it not was a business. It's just something interesting. We try. Oh, let's try to sell. And once Adrian Joffe. He was in Moscow and he met me on some like friends dinner, and he asked me what you do, and I show what we're doing this kind of things, and he said, oh, it's interesting, but let's try to sell it in Dover Street. And we tried, and it sell well, and they asked Gosha, can you do more, can you produce more? And I said no, it's very difficult. It's difficult to produce and difficult to send it to London from Moscow. It's some crazy rules, and we can do it, but finally we don't have much money. We have money from it. It's not interesting for us to do it. It's not like we need to put many our energy to it. But we don't have money. We don't have interest to do it. And I said no, sorry, it's impossible to do. If you want to have it in Dover Street, you need to help us. And they start to think how to do it, and we start collaborate. So now they made all production and all logic things for our brand. But we're still independent. But anyway, it's really good to have this kind of help.
It's interesting talking about help, because being a young brand or a young creative is always really difficult, and it seems to me, particularly after this season, that you are very supportive of other young creative talents. I was interested because you were in the Vetmont show. Why was that? Tell me about that.
It's hard to say Vetmont is young because we have more experience in fashion than me, but like brand is quite new. It's a friend of mine, and we have the same stylist who work Lotta. She worked for my brand, and she worked for Vetmont. And it was like some evening in Paris, like me, Lotta, and Demna drinking wine in Paris, and we talking about casting for their show. And I said, maybe let's try me. Let's try. Maybe it's a good idea. And all three of us, we said yes, it's perfect. It can be interesting, and it's good moment to do it. And because it's not like some random girls show, and I can be like alien there. It's because Vetmont, they always choose interesting casting, not normal models, normal like beauty. It's always they try to find interesting girls and boys. They mix. That's why it's good to be there, and I feel the same references, I think, in what we do in our collections, and I think it's good. It's a good reason to be part of it, and we made it.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say they're the same references and the same ideas.
Yeah, because we both, me and them, we both grow in Soviet Union. Yeah. It's the same. He's like Georgian, I'm Russian, and anyway, we have the same, like, we watch the same movies, like our parents have the same like life in the Soviet Union. That's why we understand. We listen the same music with him, and at the backstage we listen the same like bands from like Russian 90s. It's the same generation like me, Lotta, Demna. We all grow in 90s, in early 90s, in Russia. That's why we understand, and how to say, we have the same taste of like jokes and how to play with like relations between Russian backgrounds and what's happening now in here in Paris or in London, and that's why
it's interesting talking about, you know, those references and that growing up, you know, where you did, and talking about kind of how important Moscow is to your work, but obviously going back to what you said about Com and how it just wasn't possible financially to have a brand running out of Moscow without putting the production somewhere else. Do you feel, because obviously I imagine you want there to be a kind of thriving fashion industry within Moscow, and do you think that will be possible? Because as long as brands like you, well, not brands like you, people like you are having to outsource elsewhere, is that a frustration for you that it feels like without that external help, it wouldn't be possible to just have that within Moscow?
No, but, I like how it is now. I like to keep creative studio in Moscow. It's good for me, and anyway, if you want to be international brand, you need to like produce somewhere else, and you need to do like shows or showroom in Paris, and I like how it works now. And it for me, it was no idea to produce all in Russia. But now it's not possible, but maybe in future, I don't know. I don't know, but I like how it is now, and it can change.
Yeah, because you'd imagine that lots of young artists or young creative people, they would see what you're doing and they'd feel proud, and they would want to be able to pursue similar things. And I just wonder if, you know, the options you have been fantastic and the support you have has been amazing, but for the next generation of people coming up, you'd hope that there would be a system where they could do that from within Moscow without having to, you know, outsource. And it'd be interesting to see that set up and grow. Do you hope that that will happen, where, you know, people are showing within Moscow, and maybe not your generation but the next?
Yeah, I think all things is possible. I think people need to grow industry in Russia. Need to, and it's happening now. Many young brands, and they try to produce things in Russia, and it's good. I like the idea. It's good. It's very good. At the same time, if some people want to be more popular and wants to go to international market, why not? And what I'm doing, I think I show how it can be. I show guys, it can be this way. We can do. You can do things you believe in. You can do things about your friends, about your community, and one day you grow. You can grow to big brand, to well-known, internationally known, with help, with like big other big company like Comme des Garçons or other things. And I only try to show. It's always for me in all my works. I can show. You can do your photo book. You can do your like vinyl disc with soundtrack. You can do your own music, and you can produce it and do it. And you can do your clothes brand. If you want to do it, you need to try. You need to do it. If you want to filming, let's try. Let's try to film. And sometimes I hear critic, "Oh, you are not a professional. You need to be more like." But anyway, if you don't try, you don't understand. You need to try always. And it's all I said every time to younger people. You need to try, and you need to believe. If you believe if you believe in something, you need to do it. You need to try to do it, and you don't know the ways you can go from these things. You need to try. Maybe you can go forward with it. I don't know. You never know. You never know.
You never know what can happen. Thanks, Gosha.
Thank you.